Okay.
Okay, I'm got it. Okay, sorry. We're here. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I just texted you, but it doesn't
It
matter.
it happened. Yeah, I was on the other link. I normally host this call and so it went auto defaulted to my normal Zoom link, but this is a special Zoom link for all of you. So I needed to get the right special one. So, okay, so you want me to go ahead and get started by introducing myself?
Yes, please.
Just very, very briefly, Barb, just
Yeah, because we're
for
a
the
little late. Okay, so
thank you so much for doing it for us.
I am so excited to do this because when you mentioned this was the topic of the month, it was so lovely because I really think that this is an important topic to talk about, especially in the conscious or awakened community, because a lot of times we can get overly focused on maybe the wound or the trauma, and we're not maybe getting enough of the positive to it, if you will, or the other side. And so I just love talking about this. So I'm Dr. Barb. Barbara is on my thing because after I turned 50, I wanted to be Barbara to try to play out. I was Barbie as a child, then Barb, and now I'm Barbara. So I will a lot of times say I'm Dr. Barb. I was also a conscious parenting coach in the Dr. Shafali program, graduated with cohort 10. And I am a chiropractor is my doctorate degree. And I've done a lot of for 25 years now, work in the quantum field, human behavior, understanding energies, and as a chiropractor, of course, in understanding and decoding symptoms, basically, whether it be emotional symptoms, physical symptoms, all of that. So this is a fun place for me to be, is sharing all of this wisdom and trying to help others. So yeah. So thank you for inviting me on. And I'm going to host two classes. There's going to be this one, and then we're going to have all of these amazing, tomorrow you're speaking, and we're going to have all these amazing guests speaking, I saw. And at the end of the month, I believe it's the 29th, I'm going to be speaking again on the wizardry of the wound, going from wound to wizard, because I really feel that if we are equipped with the right magical wand, we can really just create such magic from our wounds if we know how to play that way. So, but during the month, we're going to get to hopefully unpack and sort of squeeze out the medicine of it all throughout the month with everybody speaking. So, does anyone have any? Do you have any questions before I get started? Alia, do you have anything else?
We are ready for
You're
your first
ready? Okay.
time. We're
Wow.
ready. And
Okay, so what I want to talk about is I really want to start with just centering for just a second in definitions. Let's just take a breath and come here into this moment and really looking at definitions, the definitions of the wound and the definition of trauma. Because I feel like a lot of people they have their different versions of it. It's explained in so many different ways. Psychology explains it certain ways. Um, Chiropractors can use their languaging, right? Or medicinal healers, shaman, Native Americans. Everybody has their way of describing the wound, really. And it is important to have definitions, I think, when we are following somebody so that we know what it is that they are, how we can help them. So, with the wound, I like to define the wound as the more of the anatomical, which is something that happens to our body field, okay? But it's just an isness. It's just like a cut. When you get a cut on your skin, okay? You look at the flesh and the tissue, and it is damaged. There is damage there. There's a altering of that fabric or material. And when we look at that wound, the innate intelligence in our body, we have a wisdom in our body, and that wisdom in our body is also the same wisdom in the universe. You can use it from a spiritual aspect as well, if it's God for you or whatever it might be. But there is a wisdom inside of us that knows exactly how to heal that wound. It knows exactly what to do to get activated, to bring the right cells to the structure. Now, it can do that if there's no interference. If there's nothing interfering with the connection between its wisdom and the tissues, then it will go there and it will heal. But if I'm taking, let's say, a medication that shuts down my nervous system because, I'm in pain from the wound, that's actually going to decrease my ability to heal the wound. I'm blocking the connection between my higher power, my innate intelligence, and the tissue. So that is why, as a chiropractor, as holistic practitioners, we will say, let's not give your body anything that will decrease the connection between the wisdom and the flesh, right? We're going to give you herbs. We're going to give you different things, essential oils, adjustments, get the power that made the body, heals the body to the tissue. If I give you a medication that shuts down that connection, it no longer can get there the same way, okay? It'll get there, but it'll take longer to heal the wound, okay? But the wound is just a wound. That's all it is. It's just literally a cut. And so that's the definition of a wound really across the board, is that it's just an altering or an injury to us, to our energy field, our psyche, or our flesh. So if I have a cut, I'm going to give an example of a child and I'm going to use a Native American situation because I'm visualizing this idea of we have a chief of a tribe and we have a child that's also in the tribe. And let's say there is something happening. There is some, an outsider coming in and there's going to be war. There's going to be a fight. And the chief is going to go and fight from obviously an adult perspective. And then the child is going to be having its own experience, his or her own experience, maybe taking care of the household, whatever they're doing. Now, if we have the child that has an example of this is a child that has a minor, let's say they burnt themselves in the kitchen, okay? They are actually having a wound happen to them, right? There's a wound that's happened. But the definition of the trauma for this child is this child may experience trauma, for example, and another child that gets a burn, the same burn, they're cooking the same thing on the stove, they have no trauma from the wound. Okay, so trauma is defined by our perception of the wound. So it's how we're perceiving this wound that we have. So the child is going to look at this and go, I am feeling, perhaps that child is feeling unsafe in their environment. Okay, war is happening, they're nervous, they're scared. And if they're feeling unsafe, this burn to them is going to represent their higher value. It's going to challenge their higher value. So now their higher value of safety is really being challenged. So to them, the trauma is when the wound becomes so great in their psyche that they can't handle it. They're like, I can't handle this. This is traumatic. So obviously the level of that trauma determines, all kinds of things, whether they create a story about it, whether they remember it, all of it. So if it's a pretty traumatic experience in their conscious mind as an adult, they'll remember the time they got that burn. But if it's so traumatic, they might internalize it, right? And then we don't maybe recall it as in our conscious memory when we're an adult, but it's stored in the tissues. So in this example, this child is simply they're just having a burn. It's a neutral isness. It's a neutral event. But the one child's completely fine. They're like, I got burnt. I'm just going to go put some cold water on it, moves on with life. The other child, why does the other child have now a trauma from it? It's the same burn. It is, like I said, the perception of that and how that challenges their current value system. So in this case, it's safety. So with this person, how could we go and neutralize that in that moment? Like as the parent or as somebody else in the kitchen, what could we do to go and witness this experience, witness what's happening for this child? What could we do? Somebody want to respond? Like, what could we do? Like a response? Anybody have something that comes to their mind to this child who's just got a burn? Well, the other one ran off and is fine. This other one is crying, and you can see on their face that this is very traumatic for them. Now we're in trauma for them over the wound.
Yeah, I think we just can sit with the child and normalize the emotions they experience.
Yeah.
This is usually what I do. It's just I think they get our emotions, and if we are stressed, they mirror us. But if
Hmm.
we are calm and confident that everything will pass and everything will be fine, they also mirror this behavior.
Yes. So, yeah. And when we do that with them, if their value is safety, which most children it is, most people it is, but in this particular example, it happens to be safety for this child more than likely. Um, and so, if we can understand that that's happening, we can be providing a safe environment for them, however that fits for that child. So maybe for that child, it's dressing their wound with love and creating this love and safety and letting them know we're going to be okay. Your wound is going to be okay. Your arm is okay. You're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. The
Yeah,
wound will
now,
heal.
now when you're saying it, it reminds me of a doctor. Like if it's a good doctor, he would explain what is going to happen next, so we
Yes.
feel safer.
Yes. So the difference is that we are assuring the child their values being challenged. So therefore they're feeling a misalignment in their field. And that misalignment is simply the perception. So in this perception, we have the power now to, like you said, neutralize it. If we can go and address the need of the safety. And so we can simply do that by bringing their attention back to that they are safe, however that might be for that particular person. So every child's different, but for this one, in the example, we're reassuring them that the actual body is capable, that they are capable to heal that. Yes. Yes. So now with the chief, okay, so really the rate, there's a rate determining factor for whether or not something becomes a trauma. And the rate determining factor is the interpretation of the moment. It's really the interpretation of the moment, and the interpretation of the moment will be based upon your value system. So where you are in your value system and what your highest value is typically is what you're, needing the most or most in alignment with. Okay. So if we go over to the chief example, now the chief is out at war, right? He's out fighting. He loses his leg. It's completely lost his leg. He comes back. There's more than one man fighting. So man number one comes back. His leg is gone. And he is completely wounded, but no trauma. He's like, I completely am so grateful. I can see my heart is beating. I'm alive. We won. The family is safe. I am so grateful. I am so blessed, right? A completely different perception of the same experience, right? Now there's another man number two, that is less wounded. He has a scar. Maybe he's totally opened up his whole arm with a knife, right? It's all bleeding and he has this huge scar that's going to form and it needs stitches. And he's completely traumatized. His interpretation of the event is challenged. His interpretation of the event is shifted because he has a different perception of the event. This man when we look at him, he's going to tell you, I was not in alignment with this war. I think that we were wrong. We should not have went after those people. I am not okay with this. I don't even want to be at war. Fighting is not in my blood. I want to be home cooking with the women in the kitchen. I am not in alignment, and therefore now this is going to be a trauma. Why? Because his highest value isn't winning. It isn't the same as man number one. His highest value is completely different. So for him, he's had less of a wound, but his trauma is bigger. He actually has one because he's thinking, I am so out of alignment with this. I feel threatened. My own identity feels threatened because I am so out of alignment with what just happened. And this verifies and justifies my out of alignment. Okay? So with that example of this wound that he has, he can, what the main difference is the focus. Okay, so he can either stay in that mindset, and we can, if we understand human behavior, we can probably predict what he's going to say, right? Wife comes home, he comes home, and his wife knows that he doesn't want to be at war. She's probably going to say, she could be neutralizing the event by saying, I know that you didn't want to go. You did not want to go. What is this trying to show us? We need to unpack the medicine of what this event is representing, because this is an isness event unless we put a charge on it. It's just an isness event. So in the idea of the first man, number one, his focus was on what he got, the outcome. So therefore, who cares? He lost a limb, whatever. The outcome is what he was in alignment with. The second one, this outcome is not in alignment. His body's wounded. So therefore, he is completely viewing the world differently. So his focus is on everything that's wrong. Now, this isn't a bad thing. This is supposed to happen in human behavior. That's where the good stuff is. This is supposed to happen because if we don't have the contrast of it, if the trauma doesn't present in the little child or in the man number two, okay, if that doesn't happen, we can't look to see where we're out of alignment. Do you see that? We miss it. So if there is trauma happening, we know that, I'm out of alignment somewhere. And this is why when we look at, men and women who have experienced childhood trauma, you can look at the same family and one child will have a completely different experience than the other because the other child had different values and needs than the other. And so our job is to look at it as, okay, well, if this person had, back to the number two guy for sake of examples, the man that didn't want to be at war, he doesn't want to be there. Maybe he wants to be creating the ammo. I don't know what his calling is, but he's not in alignment for whatever reason. And if he looks at that and says, wow, if I wouldn't have had this experience, maybe he wouldn't have been pushed in the direction that his soul is trying to push him in. Okay. So if we want to help him neutralize his trauma or really see that it just is, we have to look at the storyline he's telling himself. So one of the things that we do, how can we shift the trauma in our minds or perception, is we have to look at the feedback. We have to redirect the focus from the problem that it's been bad, and we have to redirect the focus to what is this telling us about you? Where are you out of alignment? So with the person man number two, the wife could say, you know what? Because I want to empower people that we think that trauma is something that's so big. And no matter how big it is, I've used these principles with people and it really distills it down. It's very simple. It's very simple. And I'm going to give, the example here of the person I worked with where when he was a small child, he had a gun put to his head. Okay. And he was told all kinds of things by that person that had the gun to his head. He was told, don't speak, or you're going to die. If you start crying, I'm going to kill your father, right? Big stuff. So this particular child, this particular human had been through years of therapy. And I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, we're not going back to the trauma and really recreating a different story. We're totally just perpetuating the story here. We're not going back and rewiring. So it was a wound. When this happened, it was a wound to your psyche, okay? And then it became this huge trauma because as a child, it blew your safety out of the right off the rails. Every part, his physical safety, his emotional safety, every ounce of safety was shattered. So I went back there with him and I told him to go back to where the moment in which that happened. And while he was in that moment, I started saying everything opposite. I brought in what in his mind, I gave him the example of angels. I asked him what his spirituality was. So I said, whatever that is, we're going to bring it in. Okay. So his spiritual source was there and I represented that and I spoke all the other things. I said, you are completely safe. Like the girl with the, like the child with the burn. Okay. Using the language, you are going to be okay. Because I knew he was going to be okay, right? He's still alive. You are going to be okay. Everybody's going to be okay from this circumstance. This is a moment where you are completely safe and held. Your mother cannot hold you, but we can hold you. You are completely surrounded by love and support. You are completely safe. Everything I could do to neutralize all the charges his mind had, I went down the list one by one, by one, by one, by one, by one, by one, by one. And he just kept moving through it. And when he got done, it was the first time he had insomnia his whole life. And it was the first time he slept. And he slept since. He said, because nobody's ever brought me back there to really provide in that moment what he really needed to neutralize the charge. It was still looking at what's the charge? Oh, well, let's stay in that. And how did that make you feel? And oh, where do you feel that in your body? And it's like, but it's keeping the psyche playing the story. Do you see the difference? So we have to go and quickly find the opposite. And that's where in quantum physics, when we understand duality in the world, there is obviously immediately there's the opposite happening. So for him, the medicine, or if you want to say the uncovering, was he had forgot that there was probably, he had told me afterwards, there's probably an amazing, obviously there were probably angels watching the whole situation the whole time, but he couldn't see or feel that at the time because the experience was so profound. So we're going back almost and claiming the other pieces that the psyche forgets about. Because that's what happens a lot in childhood trauma too, is that they'll go back, or we go back as adults even in our earlier adult with relationships with boyfriends and girlfriends. And when we go back there into that field of where those things are happening, a lot of times we are not seeing the other side. We're not seeing maybe the where we are in misalignment ourselves. Where was I in misalignment myself? Because an example for me would be when I was in my earlier teenage years, my first boyfriend, I was not ready to go further in intimacy, and he dumped me pretty fast because that was not his value. His higher value was to basically, have sex, and I was not ready for that. So I was like a no, and he just buggered off really quickly. Now, that particular moment for me created a trauma, and I have, to this day, I still go back and keep unpacking it. It was so symbolic for me. And when I go back and back and back each time, it gives me new insights every time. And it's interesting because I keep looking for the other pieces, because I'm like, if you're still coming up, there's more medicine here. Where am I not seeing where I was more out of alignment? And this weekend, I actually ended up doing more work on it. It came up again in my NET session, my neuroemotional session. And I'm like, there it is again. Of course it is. And I thought, you know what? What came through this time was I was actually totally being protected because I was in alignment with myself. And I was out of alignment though with that relationship. And so really I could be thanking him, all right? I could be thanking him so much to say, I am so grateful that you did that. I'm so grateful that broke my heart because if I would have went down the path of being married to him, what would that have looked like if I went out of alignment with myself to be in alignment with a relationship I wasn't really in alignment with? Okay. So every time we have a trauma, it is the medicine of the wound, actually really the medicine too of the trauma, the medicine of all of it is it's always feedback of where we need to become more in alignment with ourselves and or in relationship with other people. So in these situations, the medicine can sometimes be a little harder to find if we don't have the right, person or space that's looking for it. Okay? Because we have to take down the trauma glasses. We have to set them aside and not feed the ego with that story anymore. We have to pause the story and we have to be curious about all the benefits of it. We have to be curious about how it served us, how it has represented maybe the values of the other human being that per, that was there. And we are co-creators. So if we're co-creators and that's truly true, then we cannot be victims. So if we're not going to be victims, then that the victim is the victim to the story, to the storyline. Okay. And so if we're going to put our victim hat away and empower ourselves to see what the gift is in the moment. What is this gift, this great gift? So for the man with the scar, back to the analogy of man number 2, once he does his work, that scar could represent great wisdom to him. That scar could represent a turning point in his life. It could represent how he's standing up for what he's in alignment with and to remind him to do that every day because maybe he needed that visual reminder. Okay. So it's totally rewriting the script. So now that's a lot. So I want to open now for questions. Let's do some questions and then I have some more coming. Okay. But go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, Barbara, I was wondering, how would we then redefine a trauma of a, let's say, very young child? Let's say a child very young, before 6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
even before 5. Let's say that the child was physically abused. I'm just
Yep.
taking an
Yep.
example.
Yep. I had a feeling that one was
A
going to come
young
up.
child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course we all understand here that we are co-creating our reality, but
Yes.
how do we explain and how do we redefine for that child? How
Yes.
do we tell the story in a different way?
It's very similar to the gun one, the gun to the head analogy, where to that person, it would be probably feeling very violated right on all levels, on many levels. But here's the thing. We have to be careful because this is, I'm gonna be a little maybe taboo here. I don't know. When we look at this situation, the number one thing I tell people is you have to be very careful not to project your own story. Because as a culture, we have created that that intimacy with a younger child or sexuality forced upon another child that's actually a very bad thing. And I know that I'm walking on some eggshells here because I know that that can be very taboo. Okay. But I feel that in order to truly help that person to release that, we have to sort of go beyond that to see that, back thousands of years ago, we don't know. Like, we've created this as being what it is, right? We don't really know what is bad or good or right or wrong. We really don't in human behavior. Now, I understand that there can be a lot of horrible things, right? Horrible things that can happen in these scenarios. So just like the horrible thing with the gun to the head, right? As a small child, horrible, very, very threatening on all levels of human existence, mental, emotional, physical. And so the first thing we have to do is really to just understand that there is in this is an is moment. It's an is moment. And what is happening in this moment is this, we have to look at this child. Where was this child maybe needing something different? Were they calling or attracting this experience because they were really needing connection, but this is the only form in which it was taking? What were they really needing? And then now, once we do that, we can go to step 2, which is where I did with the person with the gun. And we say, okay, we are curious to come in here and see what is happening in this moment when you're there. Where is there safety? What are you first feeling? I'm feeling violated. Where are you not feeling violated? Where is the opposite happening? Because the opposite has to be happening in that moment. It cannot not be, because that's the way the universe is. So in that moment, when Dr. Demartini has walked through, he has done this, I don't know how many thousands of times. He's walked people, I've witnessed him walk through people that have had the most horrific stories you can imagine, and got them to neutralize it within, not a very long time. Because he's like, we have to get past to see where is the other side. And we have to bring it in. Now, sometimes we have to bring it in the form of, like I did with like a spiritual aspect, like your angels are around you. Where are you still safe? Because the person is still alive. They're still here, right? They're talking to you. And they're experiencing this experience before. And there can be, I think Dr. Shefali talked about this too. I believe it was her that alluded as well to the idea that there could possibly be pleasure that the person was having, the child could be experiencing. We don't know. But she was explaining about that in her own personal experience of child, abuse, things like that. She was explaining that, when she really got to see and break it down, that there were, it was kind of pleasurable, and that was scary to her. But yet it doesn't make the other person right or wrong. It just is. And we have to look to see where can we provide that other side for that person so that they can get to true self-love. Because right now that event is holding their self-love. It's holding all the power. So we have to empower them to find, even if they have to go back and give it to themselves in that moment, like plant it themselves, talk with their own voice to themselves, right? There's therapy that does that too, right? Where you're going to your inner child work and you're speaking to your inner child. It's the same concept, but it's just, instead of just validating, we're taking it a step further, and we have to cover all the benefits, all the things we did get. Where is what we were thinking was missing? Where is it? It's there. Does that make sense? Because it's there in that moment. It's very hard. This is a tough topic, because I remember when I went through it too, I was so skeptical. I'm like, no way. And then when I watched it happen over and over again, when he would walk people through this process, I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's something to this. The psyche just has to see that there is the other side. It only wants to be polar. It's so stuck there. Does that help?
It is a quite a, as you said, quite a challenging way to look at it for people, because it is basically saying that the isness is the isness and there's no good or bad. It just happened, and how do we look at it and how do we reframe it will then, show how we are
Right.
living.
And the way they're going to get to the isness, they won't go to the isness ever until their psyche can that their value in that moment has to be met. Like the guy with the wound, he'll never be able to see that that scar is good for him or serves him if nobody's taking him to see all the benefits or where he was out of alignment in that moment. He'll human behavior he'll protect himself because that's what the human psyche does. The only way the human psyche is going to put that guard down and consider that there's another half is by first feeling trust from us, first feeling that they can trust the environment and that it's okay. And then once they can get through that level of trust, it's like, okay, now that we can trust that this is okay, we're going to go and we're going to now look to see what was missing. What do you feel in your psyche was missing that really was there? We're only looking at half of the glass. We got to see the other half of the glass. So one of the ways as adults that we can see the other half of the glass is how to change your value to be okay. What is Jen? Jen has a comment on there. Yeah, change your value to be okay with the trauma. So in the example of the well, first of all, we have to look at the value of the other person, because if it's, for me, it was my older brother, right? My older brother, his value was, he was a teenager with hormones and he had his own value system, right? It really wasn't anything about me. He was just being a kid. And so for me, my value was I wanted to be closer to my brother. So when Dr. Demartini walked me through my process, he said, where did that connect you to your brother? And I'm like, it did connect me to my brother because I did feel connected to him. Now, somebody would argue and say, well, that's bad that you felt connected, it's unhealthy. And there can be obviously codependency, and you can go down a whole nother thread there, right? But it's not about all of that as much as it is just playing the psyche game, that I have to see where, even if you have to sort of, I'm going to break my collapse training rules a little bit, because he would say it's there, but I sometimes say, well, fake it till you make it. Maybe you pretend like it was there, because the psyche just needs something to anchor to. It needs something to grab onto. So if we can give it other things to grab onto that are there in that moment, why were we there in the first place? Now you're talking about a very young child. So in that particular scenario, I would probably go back more to like womb stuff, because there's womb trauma, trauma in the womb, and going back to, let's put a womb around you. You are safe. You are there. This again, building up the psyche that there was safety there, because the psyche believes that there wasn't, because there wasn't in that moment. It was protecting. So in the value for that child in that moment, it's similar to the value with the burn. That person needed safety. So we have to go back to that moment in time in their mind when this happened and create as much safety as possible. But the way in which we're creating the safety, I think, needs a little bit of another layer versus then just validation. Because that's where I think people get stuck. They just validate instead of really adding in that next layer, like I did with the person with the gun. We have to go and re-implement back in the other pieces that could be there. And even if it's just looking at, well, their value in that moment was safety, feeling really safety. I mean, if it's a young child, that's all it is, to feel safe. They do not feel safe on any level. So we have to go to all the different levels. Where can we feel safe physically? Where can we feel safe emotionally? Where can we feel safe spiritually? And keep building that muscle up. And over time, and even with things like EMDR and NET, very quickly we can disconnect those charges and associations. So now when the brain remembers that event, it can see more of both sides rather than just one. Because this one is just going to perpetuate the story that I had trauma. And then the trauma, I call it trauma drama, that we create more drama around the trauma, and then we attract more drama to justify the trauma. We attract more drama to justify the trauma. And then what do? We end up in more and more relationships that perpetuate the storyline when we really just need to go rewrite the story so that we don't keep getting the same thing over and over again. Does that make sense? Does it help to sort of like shed a little bit more light on that?
Yeah, yeah. And I think it has to do also with the mindset piece where, if you're so young and you were physically abused, you were the victim. But now that we are kind of retelling the story, you can actually uh, come out of the victim mentality and mindset and kind of own it. Yes, you were
Yes.
a victim. You couldn't do anything about it. But
Yes.
yes, now you can reframe it and now you can move on. And
Yes.
that is
Yes.
kind of connected to that piece as
I
well.
love that. See, that was such a grounding way to say that.
Mhm.
So true. Absolutely. So the victim story is running their life, right? So we have to, yeah, show them that we can now go back and rewrite that so we can empower ourselves and free ourselves. Because otherwise, we're giving the perpetrator all the power. They get
Exactly.
they're running our life. Yeah. Yeah. And that whole story is running our life.
Find
And
other people
yeah.
like them all the
What's,
time.
what's that?
Yeah. And we find other people like them all the time if
Yes.
we don't
Yes.
reframe the story. Yeah.
Because we believe that we need the perpetrator, because we need the perpetrator to perpetuate the story, right? If we don't have the perpetrator, we can't keep perpetuating the story. So it's a cycle that, yeah. But I feel like the way that they can break it the easiest, back to Jen's question, is to look at um really to look at the value. So with the child, it's easy. The little child, we know it's safety, right? But if it's like, let's say, a 25-year-old woman who's maybe never had any of that as a child, which is very rare, most have, but if they haven't, and they are experiencing something in a relationship that's maybe not this topic, maybe it's something different, like cheating, for example. The partner keeps cheating on them. It would be like, where am I out of alignment? What is my highest value in this moment? My highest value is, you know, um, monogamy, but my partner's highest value is not monogamy. Okay, that's an easy, obvious one. Okay, then we go to the next one of like, if this is continuing to happen, um, and I'm experiencing trauma out of it, okay, it is bringing me an invitation to go deeper to see where have I been out of alignment all this time, because somebody else might be in a relationship with somebody that cheats and they don't care. They're just like, whatever, it works for me. Like, I don't know. And then if I want to ever have it, some people that they're completely okay with that. Or they would be like, not okay with it, but like, yeah, we're done. Like, that's all it's taken. Bye. See you tomorrow. Here's your bag. Don't let the door hit you, go. Right. And then they quickly make the decision because there's no trauma. They're just like, yeah, this is a no for me because this is out of alignment. Quick, you're gone. But for the ones that keep staying in the unhealthy relationship, they're doing that because, again, the relationship is trying to mirror to them where they're out of alignment somewhere. And they have to find that. And that's where we need to help them find where they're out of alignment, because that's where the juice is. That's where the change is. And it takes the focus from the wound or from the shadow or from the problem into the solution. It really is a shift in mindset. And I think we spend a lot of time in my Limitless last month, I think in September, we were talking about the idea of focusing so much on like the inner work or the wound and the trauma. We're focusing so much on the shadow of it that we aren't bringing the light in. We're not focusing on the light to bring it in, to bring light to the shadow. And then when we bring the light to the shadow, everything shifts quicker. But we spend so much time on the one side, and we need to spend more time on the other side. And the more time we spend over there, the faster this dissolves. It just goes quick, 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 quick. So I think that's probably my biggest thing I've noticed over the 25 years of working with people, whether it be chiropractically. We see it with them all the time with symptoms. We adjust their body. My neighbor had foot pain for 2 years, 2 surgeries, And I said, just get over here to my table. Like, here's the headboard of my table right there, that black little square. This is my table. Come over. He lays down. I work with him. I adjust him one time. And he's like, oh my gosh, I can walk. And his foot's been like pretty much healed ever since then. And I gave him this little exercise with his tennis ball. He's like, how come nobody told me about that? I'm like, I don't know. So here you go. And he's like, how does that work? I go, because I was looking at something different. I was looking at the power that made your body heals the body, and I was getting no interference, and the body has it. Everybody else is trying to chase your symptoms and look at your foot. Your foot's not the problem. There's interference between your brain and your foot. So let's get that working, and then voila, the foot can heal, right? The power of the body and healing is right there. It's always right at our fingertips. We're just having resistance or interference between us and that. It's just simply like a veil. And when we can dissolve that veil and drop the veil, there it is. It's right there. It's so much easier than we think, because I think sometimes we find attention, again, back to the values, we find benefits to living in the story. It serves us because maybe we get attention, maybe we get different, money maybe from people if in a relationship. Like, I'm going to stay in this relationship because I get paid, my groceries are bought and whatever. But we're always doing something in human behavior because of the perceived payoff. And so the goal is to neutralize any of our imbalanced charges, and then we can see everything for just what it is, which is what it really is. But the mind, to survive, has to have duality or polarity, because that's how we have to know if, we run from the tiger, right? We know this, right? We all know that. So it's more or less getting into the higher minds where we can see differently, and knowing that we can feel safe to do that is the step number one, that it's completely safe to do that and go there. So what I want to do is offer the mandala. So in Limitless, Alia, way back when, right? We did a mandala because I love doing mandalas, and not everybody knows what a mandala is. And I actually was going to look up the definition because this is a picture of it, by the way. I'm going to show you guys a picture because I did mine on a beach. Okay. But like I said, we can go and I want to give people a tool that we can use. Oh yeah, you want to see again with your glasses on? We have a tool that we can use to unpack this medicine. Okay, unpack the drama of the trauma, unpack the medicine of the wound. What is it really trying to show us? And mandala work goes way back. So the Buddhist monks I don't know if they use it to this day, but they used to make mandalas, spend all this time making intricate mandalas with the earth, and then blow it away. That was what they did. They brought it to spirit. So it's a circle. Let me look up the definition. I thought I had it up, but okay. So a mandala is a spiritual and artistic tool originating in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, meaning circle in Sanskrit, that represents the cosmos, a meditation space, or the ideal universe. Typically, it's symmetrical, circular, and incorporating repeating patterns. Mandalas are used for meditation, spiritual guidance, a form of self-therapy, things like that. So it can be made from various materials: sand, anything, clothing, stones. I had flowers on the beach. So what I'm inviting people to do, if it speaks to them, is take the medicine. We all have wounds. We all have wounds that became traumas. And then we all have traumas that have became dramas. Okay? Maybe in some areas of our life. Maybe it's with our kids. Maybe it's in relationship to our business, whatever it is. Money. Oh, money. That's another one, right? Relationship with money. So it doesn't have to be from our childhood. It could be anything. And create the mandala anywhere. You could do it on a surface, like a desk surface, or your, in your living room on a coffee table. You can do it outside. You could do it on a piece of canvas, wherever you want. Actually, I don't want you to do the canvas because we don't want it to be permanent. We want it to be something that I like to do it outside because we are dancing with the elements of Mother Gaia, the earth. So if we can create a circle outside, it can create a portal into the earth. Now, not everybody, though, lives, some people are very urban and they don't necessarily have a space. They could do it at a park if they want to. They don't have to do it someplace in their home. You can be playful with it. And you create this mandala. And in the mandala, we're going to put as many as you want or you feel called to put of your wounds in there. So you can take like a stone, like I have, a lot of people will have stones. Let's see, here's a big one. Here's a rose quartz. You can take something like this. Now, obviously you have to decide, is this something I want to give to the earth at the park? I can use a stone that's in the park. If it's something that you want to have that's near and dear to you, you can keep it, in your own yard. So you're going to, obviously get that back. But if you can really just take it and take each item, whether it be a flower or a leaf or a stone, and you're going to blow into it the wound. Okay? You're going to blow into it and then you're going to set it into your mandala. And then as you set it into your mandala, you're going to just let it be there and release it to the earth, release it to the spirit, release it out. And let yourself just say, I release this and I let the medicine come to me. I'm open to receive the medicine. Give me the courage and the openness to receive the medicine that this has to offer me. And then you can do that with as many as you want. You can have 12 in there. You can have one, whatever you're feeling guided to release, and bring it there. And then we're going to let it be there for the whole month. Okay, through all the talk tomorrow, all this discussion about wounds, and let it just percolate and let the medicine get received. And things will happen. Ideas might happen, thoughts might happen, people might pop into your life and say things. Things are going to shift. And this can be something that you can completely visit if you want to each day. If you want to do that, probably keep it someplace close or on a walking path that you're going to walk by each day on your way to work or something. Put it wherever. You can also do the mandala and let it go. Some people do that where they're like, I just want to build it and then just let the magic work and I don't need to ever see it again. Okay, like the Buddha, the monks do. They just literally blow it away. You can do it however it resonates. And then we will come back to it later this month at the next call, and we will revisit the mandala. So that's what my invitation is for that. And does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Barb. I just wanted to share throughout the whole conversation, for some reason, the mother and the little child was coming in my mind. And I was thinking about the perception, and I was thinking, I've been working sometimes with hospitals with little children, and what they share, it's exactly about the security and the perception. Because when the mother feels, when she trusts the world, when she feels her child is going to be better, no matter what is the sickness and what the medicine is saying, the child gets better easier and quicker, and the child finds the way to heal the wound. But oftentimes the mothers get very scared, so they don't feel secure and they cannot give this security. And their children, usually it takes a longer time to get better, if ever. So this was coming very much for me during the whole thing, like the perception and how much security we need to bring in our life. And also when we work with people as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if we have that security, It
Mhm.
creates such a different space. So there is a saying in our field in holistic healing that actually it was by Dr. DeMartini, and it was that certainty is what creates results. It's certainty. So there were chiropractors that would I would train and they would do the same thing I would do, but they wouldn't get the same result. And I said, "How certain are you of the power of the body?" And they would question it. And I'm like, "That's why you're not getting the same result because you have to have the certainty. You have to believe
Mm.
that it can happen. You have to know that we are being held. We have to know that we're safe. We have to know that the body, I'm going through that with my own reminders with my own health. And I'm really reminding myself that the power that made the body heals the body, and I am completely safe no matter what. But if we don't have that, if we're quivering, it's okay too, because we can get that as well as a mom. Because I know, the whole perfect mom, we have so much pressure already that, well, if I'm not providing the safety, then now my child might not get the help they need. And it's like you can bring the safety, again, you act as if, and you can bring the safety in just to both of you, however you can, and say that we're going to let's bring in our angels. Let's know that we're safe. Let's look around. Let's go together, right? You just bring them with you and show them that we're going to find this together if you maybe can't have it yourself, but you're going to at least commit to the willingness to do that. And I find the only way people are able to do that is if they have enough, again, their value, if it's a high enough value to them and their self-love. If they can't find the self-love to do that, they won't feel worthy to go and do that for them and their child. They'll just be like, whatever, I give up, I don't, it's too much. But we have to then we have to give them the safety. So it's a chain event, right? Like you were saying,
Mm.
like it's a chain. You have to
Yeah.
wherever we can find it, we have to cultivate it. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
symbology, I was thinking exactly about the mother and the child and how the perception is so important and the safety.
It is
But yeah,
so
we can
important.
always go and find it somewhere around us.
Yes, yes, yes. So just reminding them of that. I mean, literally holding space, that's where miraculous healings happen, is you're literally in the consciousness that you are vibrating at a frequency that when anyone enters your field, they're just going to shift. So that is why I might say the same thing in the same words as another person saying the same thing, but people are going to have a different feeling when I say it, maybe than when they say it, because of the frequency and the energy, like you talk about, Alia, that we bring to something. And so it's if we cannot cultivate that ourselves, we can definitely pull it in from all kinds of sources. You can play frequencies on your phone, like solfeggio frequencies. You can play chakra frequencies. You can go to sound healing baths with your child. You can do anything to increase the frequency of your environment, and spirit will just nurture you with that and help you. So, yeah. Hi, Kim.
Thank
And yeah,
Okay.
Hi,
Kim,
Bob. Hi, guys.
you get mixed up with
you.
the time difference, or?
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, so does anyone else have any questions or comments before we close?
Oh,
Oh, Kim, are you just coming on?
did I miss it?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
it was
Oh,
did.
an
You
hour,
missed
but
the
that's
whole
okay. I
thing.
recorded it. You're good. You're safe. You're
sorry.
safe. We have you.
Okay, good.
There's a
Okay,
reason
good.
why you came now. I don't know. Maybe when you listen to the replay, more is going to come through. I don't know, but it's just you're right.
Maybe.
You're right on time.
Shoot.
You're
Always.
right on time always. That's right.
I'm sorry, Bob. Darn
No, no
it.
apologies, right? Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Shoot.
So,
All
okay.
right.
Anybody have anything else to comment on or?
Just a very quick reflection on what you were talking about, this certainty. When we are certain, the other person kind of picks it up from us. And Ali, you were talking about the mother and the child, and I was making the parallel with what we do as coaches. in our work, because then you can see it with the clients as well. So because when we see them, we see them as a whole human beings that are absolutely perfect. And this is already such healing for them, just because we are certain, they are whole and there's nothing wrong with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And that is where the magic happens. It
Mhm.
begins.
Exactly.
Yes. It's so much in that. Yes. I love that. Okay. All right. Well, for the replay will go out to everybody. Kim, I'll turn it over pretty fast. So you'll get it here. Maybe I probably can do it in about 20 minutes. So you'll get
Sounds
it
good.
back. Okay. All right.
Thanks. All right.
Okay. Well, I love all of you. Thank you so much. And your mandalas, please, if you want to, is there a space that they can put their pictures of their mandalas anywhere?
They can put them on our community
Chat.
space. Yeah, we have like a chat so they can put it there.
Okay.
I'll put a reminder.
That would be a nice.
Okay. Yes. Because I find that when we can do that, it can supercharge the energy because we're all seeing the mandalas. And then, of course, if that resonates with you, if it doesn't resonate with you, it's total. Anything is always an invitation and optional. Okay. So, all right. Okay. I will see you at the end of the month.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Have a beautiful day, all of
You
you.
too. Thank
So
you. Bye,
much.
That's good.
everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.